Alright, I'm just getting started on the brake job on this car. The rotors look like they were about brand new. In fact, the front end looks really super good. But I turn the rotors and throw the brake pads away on every one of them and start fresh for the most part. These are turning up just perfect. Alright, I just tapped in the new front wheel bearings. It's got the spacer in there, the two new wheel bearings. So I just anti-seasoned the splines on the axle. And as you can, sounds like the rotor just finished cutting. And I will put that all back together. The caliper's all lubed and put back together and anti-seized. And then we'll be on to the passenger side. Here's a little trick on the Geo front brakes if you ever do them yourself. Make sure you get a gob of anti-seize on all of the bolts. Makes the brake job go so much faster and easier. Just put a little, paint a little on the end, and I don't care if you use copper, nickel, aluminum anti-seize, just use some anti-seize. If you don't have any anti-seize, at least put a dab of grease on the threads, and then run them down tight. But they torque up much better. Just a little something I do. And I put anti-seize on everything. Another little thing here, when you're doing your hardware for your brakes, you want to make sure that you're anti-seizing underneath your stainless hardware. Just where it sits. You don't have to do anything crazy. Just get everything. Don't worry about getting a little on the rotor. You'll be okay. And then back on with your hardware. And you'll find it fits much, much easier. And then where the pad rides, which is the same place you just painted when it was off. And don't hesitate to use a lot. You don't have to give gobs on it, but just make sure it's coated. This is what stops the brakes from wearing out fast. Everything slides back and forth when you let your foot off the pedal. See, I already did the bottom down here. And you know, I've done the axle splines. I did the bearings when I pushed those in. I mean, this virtually should come apart really quick and really easy for somebody in a few years. And this stuff literally will last that long if you take care of it really well. And I show you this because I really wish or hope to see everybody in their bid to recycle and stuff to recycle their car. It's the one thing you can do that lowers your carbon footprint the very most. There's no reason for you to make a boat payment for your mechanic. Not that he doesn't need a boat. It's just, we'll save that for the people with Escalades. Okay, I'm going to move on. I just wanted to show you that little bit, maybe help you out. And it's the same on all the cars for the most part. Okay, one other thing I want to show you really quick. So in the future when you're redoing your brakes, I use Mintex pads. I know they're the factory pad, but if you look, here's the part number if you want it for later. This camera will adjust. I don't know if you can see it, but I use them for the Suzuki Alta range, the Suzuki Swift range, 84 to 89 part. They're just a little bit better pad because they were made for the Suzuki just makes the pad a little bit better than they do for the Geo. In fact, everything on the Geo is a little light. Part of the reason it gets such good gas mileage. But the brake pad is definitely better from the Suzuki line. So that's what I do. And then you can see, let me grab a pad. There's about, I'd say there's about 10-15% more brake pad in a Suzuki pad than there is in a Geo. And then basically these are easy pads to look at. You can look right through the wheel, and when you see that slot gone, that means it's time to do a brake job. As simple as that. And these are top of the line pads. Okay, so I just lubed the caliper bolts and torque those down. You can see how there's anti-seize. The new pads are installed. You can look through this hole right here. You might even be able to see. I don't have a flashlight in my pocket. Hold on, I do. Nope, I don't. But inside there, you can take a peek in and get a little light. That's where you see the notches on the pad to see how worn they are. And we'll push the. And I'll bring it around, and everything's happy. Make sure you always torque those bolts down, torque those two bolts down, torque down your axle nut, make sure everything is lubed. Anti-seize everything. And anybody that follows my videos looking for a car knows that I only shoot on one side because this camera thing slows me way down. So now I'm going to go ahead and do the other side and then move to another portion of the car. But that's how it's done, and if you're interested. Alright, side 2 is complete. Everything's nice and lubed. Caliper. In fact, if you check your brakes, you want this caliper to be wiggly like that. When you step on the brake, it locks solid, but that's the pin mechanism, and that's how it's supposed to be. When you get one apart and that caliper won't move around a little tiny bit, that means it's stuck and it's dragging one of the pads down. You want all this to be wiggly and loose. When you let off the brakes, this doesn't expand off, it just lets the pressure off. So the pad technically is always floating on the disc. So you're just taking the pressure to 0 and then stepping on it, and all this firms up and locks, and then it releases. You know, so it's locked up when you hit the brakes, then it releases out. But there's no springs or anything in a disc brakes. That's in drums where it pushes everything back. This is just pressure on, pressure off, so it has to be nice and loose. Like when I took this stuff apart, it was rock solid. I had to tap all this stuff off with a hammer and go through it and clean it and stuff. And that's just from age, just dust and stuff. But yeah, just something to think about. If you've never done brakes, little FYI, if you do brakes, something to think about. And something not to be worried about. I could see somebody going, oh, that thing's loose, and going down to the parts store and buying them a boat payment of calipers and putting it on, going, oh my gosh, it's the same deal. And again, you can't, oh, I wish it wasn't so dark in here. And you can't see the pads in there, but that's the hole you use to see how much pad is left in the slots I showed you in an earlier video. Alright, we're on to the next part of the car. Alright, I just got done putting the new brake shoes in on the car. Everything looks nice and clean. You can see I paint everything black, a nice gloss so the road salts and stuff don't get on the hardware and destroy it. Everything looks real sharp. Gonna go turn some drums right now and tap in the new wheel bearings and get it all put back together. In fact, we'll sneak around here to the other side. You can see this side's all ready to go too. Okay, here we are, just changing the wheel bearings and the rear drums. There's the spacer that goes between the bearings, and then here's the inner bearing. Ooh, I dropped it. And the outer bearing. This bearing's definitely noisy. The Geo Metros need wheel bearings put in them. You get 150,000 on these things. Got to restore them. Can't just drive. I love people that say, oh, I drove my car for 2 years, never had any problems, now it's for sale. Well, of course it is. We'd want to drive it for the next 2 years. Alright, anyhow, I'm going to tap in the new wheel bearings and get this thing back together. Alright, just tapped in the new bearings into the drums. They fit just perfect. Seals look nice. And get these babies turned and put back on. Okay, let me show you what happens to all these Geo Metros. First off, the EGR valve here, the port comes down around here, over here, all the way across the head and gets the exhaust gas from over here. These plug up. The EGR valve can't work right, and the EGR is used for putting inert gas to cool the exhaust gas down so the engine doesn't ping under acceleration. Without that, the combustion chamber exhaust gases are too hot and they just burn these valves up, and that's what you're seeing right there. Just the edge of the valves burn out. These ones aren't burnt out. It's the #1 cylinder. Could happen to any one of the cylinders. You simply have to do fuel injection and decarbon services to late model cars. This is easily corrected. I actually have another head ready to go. I always keep a couple of them built, so I'll get that slapped on, but and then rebuild this one for another car. But that's what happened, and it didn't just happen overnight. Somebody drove this car for a long time like this, and there's no point in it. They could have got another 10-15 miles a gallon by fixing that. And besides that, this whole thing will be like brand new. Nothing wrong with it at all. It's just basic maintenance. Alright, here's what I'm talking about. This port right here is plugged up. Let me grab my screwdriver here. This hole should be like a 10mm hole. Doesn't mean the motor's wore out or anything. It's just normal carbon. This happens to all late model vehicles. It just happens that Geo doesn't like to run around on 2 cylinders, and everything else will run on 5 or 7 or whatnot. I'm going to clean those out completely. And then on the head side, you can see that it's just plugged solid. And I'll actually hot tank and bar that out. My head's falling off. That's basic maintenance. Every year do a engine decarbon and fuel injection service, and that'll really help. Or every 2 years have somebody pull the exhaust manifold off, or you pull the 8 bolts off. And I like to take, I actually have a coat hanger, and I just bend the end of it on my own car and put it on my cordless drill, and I just run it in and out and make sure it's clean. And then I take a can of carb cleaner and blow through there, and if you look down the throttle body when you blow through it with the throttle open, you can actually see it spray into the base of the throttle body, and you know it's clear. Just a little trick. And the more often you do it, the less likely it'll be plugged. This never got done. This is just 150,000 miles or whatever of love or lack of it. Alright, I'm just putting the new thermostat in it. New stainless stat. Should last for a long time. And getting everything switched over to the new head. Everything's resealed. This is a nice head. Well, let's flip it over where it's lightweight. It's got all new brand new exhaust valves. The intake valves are reused because intake valves never go bad. And it's got I'll get it all the stuff put on here. I'm going to take it over, mill the head flat, and it'll be ready to be installed. Yeah, we're just plugging along. Now I'm not sure where I'm at. I've been working for a few hours here. Just getting ready to put a cam seal in it, new intake exhaust gaskets, blah 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 blah. Put the cam gear on it. Not much of an update here. We'll move on. Alright, just pulled the water pump off. You can see where my thumb is, that green coming out of there. It was seeping a little tiny bit. It wasn't low on coolant. Just when it gets hot, it just puts a little dribble out there. But the pump's bad. Again, this is just how every one of them with 150,000 miles or so is. You got to take the stuff off and throw it away. New timing belts, new water pumps, new belts, the head gaskets, all of that stuff. It has to be changed. Cam seals, crank seals. All that stuff I'm doing right here. Wheel bearings. I mean, just everything. I'll go through these axles pretty soon. If you don't do it, all you're going to do is just drive around and break down. One part here, one part there. Alright, just prepping up the new water pump. From the old to new. Get that all put on there and have this thing running in no time at all. Here's a quick little trick for anybody that has an oil leak on their Geo and they can't find it, and they think it's the front crankshaft seal. It's the oil dipstick tube. They always leak. I hate them. Put a new O-ring on, and then a dab of silicone all the way around, just a bead. Shove it back down, bolt it down, let it set overnight. When you fire it up the next day, it's perfect. Never leak again. O-ring shouldn't leak, but they always do. Same thing on the distributor for the engine. I always put brand new O-rings in. Don't silicone that. Put an O-ring in there. It'll leak in 60,000 miles. When you change the timing belt and water pump again, change the O-ring. It'll be bad. But this is a good fix. I like this. I've been doing this for quite a few years. Alrighty, just putting the rings in the motor. The cylinder wall, I don't know if you can see in there, it's kind of dark, but there's no lip at all. The cylinder wall's perfect. All of them are. Motor looks great. Rings are just wore out. Just where are they at? You know, when they pass that 130,000 mile marker, they just start using oil and the compression drops off and the fuel economy goes away. I love reading these Craigslist ads this week where it just uses a little oil. Or I'm selling the car because it needs a tune-up. That means it needs rings. Geos don't need tune-ups. They either have good compression or they run rough. It uses oil, needs a tune-up, gas mileage isn't right at the top, compression check will tell all on that. So I'm putting some rings on the number 3 piston right now. These are the rings that came out of it. They look perfect. They're just wore out. They're just a smidge wore out, and it only takes a few thousands. And you know, about 130,000 miles. Maybe a little more than that if somebody used better oil, but nobody does. Synthetic, I bet, would probably take it out to 200,000, but everybody's so cheap. Alright, well, I'm going to get the stuff back together here and get it fired up and running. Okay, one last thing I wanted to show here. I just turned the camera back on. I haven't changed these rod bearings out. These are what came out of the motor. Look at those. Those look as good as the ones in the box I'm going to put in it. That is the beauty of a Geo Metro. It just doesn't have enough power to tear itself apart. Those bearings are flawless. And the crankshaft down there is that little tiny shiny spot you can see down there anyhow. It looks like a mirror. I mean, it looks like day one. They never have any wear. The only time a Geo Metro bottom end goes away is when they run out of oil. A stock Geo Metro, if you're into racing or anything, or can appreciate what turbo boost is or supercharger boost, a stock Geo Metro will take 20 pounds of boost on that crankshaft with no problem at all. It's amazing. It might look tiny, but compared to the size of everything else, it's pretty heavy duty actually. Alright, that's all I wanted to show is those rod bearings. Alright, on the rings, I have these imported, because they're just impossible to get in the U.S. They're the factory NPR Nippon piston rings. Make sure they have the seal on them. There's places that sell, they must have this box printed up and buy some cheap American or, well, probably some cheap Chinese rings, and they don't have that seal on them. Just make sure, you can tell the difference between them, but if you ever change them yourself, just make sure that you're buying them from a good source. I've even seen the dealer sell bad ones because somebody got a super good deal and didn't realize it. So I bring them right in from overseas. And if you're doing a standard block, 74 millimeters is what you're looking for, and that's a G10 motor, so that's what you're looking for, is G10 74 millimeter. They're here to take your call, 877-333-7422. Alrighty, I'm going to just show you really quick for those of you that are driving a Geo and maybe looking to buy a new one and just need to do a little maintenance. The door locks, they're always broken. You just buy them, buck up. They're like 80 bucks at the dealer a piece. This particular car is getting a couple of them put in it. The mechanism inside here, that's why I got the camera pointed here. Let me turn my radio down here.
It's another thing I should do. Why don't you just keep adding to the list?
Yeah, exactly. Whatever happened to the days when farmers...
There we go. I got my iTunes going. Listening to the Farmer's Market Report. Okay, so the mechanism in here, it just gets sticky and binds up, and then, no, I don't mean to move the camera around so much on you, but the latch, the ends on it, they just break. The bolts pull out. It's really not the best lock. I ordered these ones up out of Hong Kong from a guy, and they come right from the factory. The original equipment takes, it's taken 20 years for most of them to break. So I just figure using new again is plenty good. The US model ones are just terrible. I don't know where they get them, but this is a factory one, and they're called HS, and I can't pronounce the two words that go along with the letter, but they're red and blue if you're looking for them yourself. The lock, you just pull this little clip right here out, and the lock just pushes right out of there. This is the gasket around the door here, but the lock will just push out. I like to take the lock and open it up with a screwdriver. Just push the door open like so, and then I use automatic transmission fluid. You could use WD-40. Let me show you. Let me grab mine. I just put a Windex bottle sprayer on it, and goes a long ways and works really well. But you open that thing up, the WD-40 dissipates. It's gone in a few days. It just doesn't have the effect of oil, and motor oil's too thick and gummy. This stuff is a lot better. But just a few squirts. I've already done this lock. Put about that much in it, and then if I had two hands, it would sure be easier. And then put the key in it, work it back and forth, and you'll just see the oil work out the back side of it, and you can tell when it's all freed up. Yeah, so then I take my WD, or my oil here, my transmission oil, and I'm trying to hold on. There's an octopus here. So down inside there, the mechanism, if you move all the rods around, you can see where everything's at. But like on this particular door, this particular rod right here would barely even move when I took it apart, and now it works really nicely. And let me grab something here. Sorry about all the camera movement. Probably wasn't as prepared to turn the camera on as I thought. So if you take the door here and just lock it, there, it's fully locked. And now all you got to do, I don't know what side to show you here. I'll show you the lock part. Oh, maybe I can show you both parts. So basically, I just barely push that, but that's the spring in there. But it just works perfect now. So what I've done, set my screwdriver down, is I just get in here and just douse the whole thing. And then I just start moving everything up and down, all the rods till they work. I've got the panel off on the inside here so we can look in there. And, well, maybe you can't see real well from inside here. But it's real fast and it's real easy. I could have already done 2 doors to the amount of time I got screwing around with this camera. The extra oil runs down on the bottom of the door. Maybe it'll stop it from rusting away in 10 or 15 years or something. But no big deal. But yeah, just lube the crap out of everything and just make sure it all works nice and smooth. Just like that. Alright, I'm going to just stuff this thing together. And then the lock, it just makes them perfect. Alright, just going to do a quick walk around of the car. That's the ugly spot of the car. It's got a few little dings in there where somebody probably sat against the fender. And then somebody thought they'd just reach up there and hit it with a ball peen hammer or something a few times instead of a suction cup to pull it out. Common on these thin-walled fenders. Make sure you can see that good. Get a whole shot of the car in there. You only really see it when you're right up against it. I just put one of those rock chip kits on the front of it where you paint the nose of it so it doesn't chip from rocks. I really like those. I think it's worth the $50. Got real good tires on it. I don't know, They're full of balancing beads, so they're centrifugally balanced all the time. Let me back up so you can see the whole thing. And it's got the tire and stuff in the back, and there's a jack there. Obviously I haven't cleaned it yet, so it needs to be vacuumed and stuff, but I won't look all that terrible. Well, I'm not sure what you're seeing here. I think it's running, so you know, just a good runner, nice and smooth. All right, tell me what you think. All right, here we go. Take her for a drive.